My name is Ginny, also known as 2/3 Lotus, everywhere on the internet. This clip is part of my series, The Poets of Twitch, where I analyze my viewers' writing live on stream. Nothing has been edited out, so you're seeing this exactly as streamed with all of the imperfections and tangents that come with being live. If you want to catch me live or want more information, check out the description. Otherwise, enjoy some excellent writing. Bye. This is by my name Jeffrey Son 4.0. Or no, me. Okay, we're doing this. Me name Jeffrey Son 4.0. This is the kind of thing that makes YouTube get mad at me for having too long of a title. This is what we are reading. And it will be a little difficult because of the formatting, but we will do our best. Slide that over. Okay. And they gave permission to put this on YouTube, so that is where it will be. I presume you are watching now on YouTube, me named menamejeffreyson4point0, in whatever time it is for you, whenever. So here it is. And for anyone on Twitch, this is what we're reading. A poem by me named menamejeffreyson4point0, Untitled. Here we are. Let's read it a couple times. You slip a pack of cigarettes out the back of your jeans, and the wind howls in coughing sobs at a dying dream. Star-emblemed fur caps and dripping blood crystallizing on snow like rhubarb drops, and the man by your legs twitches in the throes of death. That's a good first line. First sentence. It is only once he whimpers, once, low, that you look down at him and your knees buckle at the sight of your face, freckled with specks of rose water. You brace your arms out on either side of your torso, lean over your knees and spit stringy nicotine and horror up onto the earth. There are clock tower bells echoing your demise on a tragedy's horizon, and you press palms to your eyes until stars burst in rolling darkness. The earth comes up to meet your body. You think the stars in the morning look pretty, your eyes bright with fever, shimmering with a sweeping sea of misery, but it never occurs once to you, laying in the embrace of winter's warm death, that stars do not appear in the morning. Oh, stars do not appear in the morning. An untitled work by me named menamejeffreyson4point0. This is really cool. Very cool. Very, very cool. I'm going to read it again to see what I missed. You slip a pack of cigarettes out the back of your jeans, and the wind howls in coughing sobs at a dying dream. Star-emblemed fur caps and dripping blood crystallizing on the snow like rhubarb drops, and the man by your legs twitches in the throes of death. It is only once he whimpers, once, low, that you look down at him and your knees buckle at the sight of your face, freckled with specks of rose water. You brace your arms out on either side of your torso, lean over your knees, spit stringy nicotine and horror up onto the earth. There are clock tower bells echoing your demise on a tragedy's horizon, and you press palms to your eyes until the stars burst in rolling darkness. The earth comes up to meet your body. You think the stars in the morning look pretty, your eyes bright with fever, shimmering with a sweeping sea of misery, but it never occurs once to you. Laying in the embrace of winter's warm death, that stars do not appear in the morning. Oh, stars do not appear in the morning. So a few things, like details that are going to help us understand this poem. First one is that we have star emblemed fur caps. So this is going to be talking like probably Soviet. At least this is what I see. We're talking about like winter, right? And all of that. And war, probably, right? People in the throes of death. So I'm sort of getting the impression of, let's say, like World War II, right? Dripping blood crystallizing on snow like rhubarb drops. So I like the ways that you describe blood in this poem. I think generally, like, talking about blood or saying blood red feels like pretty literarily weak, I would say, or vocabularily weak. But saying that it crystallizes on snow like rhubarb drops, I think this is like a really cool line. And then specks of rose water, I presume with like the coughing, the kind of idea of like spit with blood, right, is what I see as specks of rose water here, on your face, right? Or just like little bits of blood, either way. Same deal. You brace your arms out on either side. So you brace your arms out on either side of your torso, lean over your knees and spit stringy nicotine and horror up onto the earth. So a few things happening here. Gotta leave. Have a good one, Drowning Devil. There are a few things happening in this poem. In terms of symbols. So we have the cigarettes, right? And the nicotine as one thing. And these are important, I would say, right? We begin this poem with the person pulling a pack of cigarettes out of the back of their jeans. And this, of course, is you. So you pull the pack of cigarettes out, and then you also spit nicotine, right? And to mention that twice, especially at the start and also in the middle of the poem, tells to me like some amount of like importance here, right? It's throughout the poem essentially, and you know, it's important as a symbol, right? Because cigarettes are, and nicotine and like drugs are a symbol. So I guess maybe we talk about symbols here. Symbols. And I don't remember Me Named Jeffrey's Son, but I feel like your previous poem that you sent me was pretty symbol heavy. So maybe this is a feature of your work. So cigarettes. Jeez, my throat. I'm dying here. We have the cigarettes, the nicotine, whatever, right? And then another symbol, generally. I think seasons, any of these kinds of things, these temporal ideas. Winter, again, that is going to be a symbol. So we talk about the howling wind, the snow, the warm embrace of winter, or the embrace of winter's warm death. So, in winter, has meanings as well, from just like a standard literary symbol sort of perspective. So cigarettes, we have winter, and then also the stars, certainly, are very prevalent in this poem. We end with the idea, stars do not appear in the morning, stars do not appear in the morning. And, I mean, generally if we're in a work, in a prose poem here with no repetition, or no exact repetition like this, except for this, it signals to us that the idea of stars not appearing in the morning is extremely, extremely important to this poem, right? So then we have stars, like so. And I want this to be the right color. So with what we underlined, cigarettes, right there. And my phone just beeped at me. I want to check it. Where is my phone though? There it is. Okay. Poetry. My therapist texted me. Coolio. Okay, so that's a symbol. And then blood maybe, but I think blood is just generally sort of associated with death, and that's not too much of a strong symbol here. We do have the clock tower as well. This is perhaps a symbol we want to look into in this poem. Clock tower bells echoing. And then that would be, because that's normally a symbol of like time and whatnot. So, or a clock, symbol of time, yes, but of death, bells tolling, right? When the bells toll, things ending. That. So these are the different symbols that I see sort of immediately. And in terms of analysis, sometimes we analyze and we want to look at structure, sometimes we look at symbols, sometimes we look at the way a poem uses tension and release, perhaps. I'm not sure exactly how to explain when to use these approaches, but so there are a lot of approaches to analyzing poetry. I just want to talk about this because I do think also in analyzing on stream, I want to show some of the art of poetic analysis, right? And one of these approaches is going to be, like we just started, sort of a symbol-based analysis, or symbolic, symbol-based, symbolic, right? And this is going to be going through looking at individual kind of words, things that stick out in the poem, these symbols, and saying, what do these mean, and how do they contribute to the broader idea of the poem, right? So this is one way, and that's what we're doing here. Now there are also other things. We can talk about tension plus release. This is going through a poem and looking at when it gets intense, when it pulls back, how it flows, and using this as a medium to get to your final analysis. You can look at, perhaps there's like a single metaphor, right? Like the poem we read earlier on stream, Stylish Veils Led On. And then you need to go through and talk about the metaphor whole time. And it's mostly a product of the kind of poem you're reading, right? You can even approach beginning through structure. This is a place to begin. And you usually end up going somewhat crossing over into the other ideas. But these are approaches to look at a poem and say, like, how do I want to try to parse through this information? Because, and for me, it's a little bit instinctual. Like, I didn't necessarily choose, like, I'm going to look at this through symbols. I just noticed a lot of symbols, and these are probably something that's going to help us unpack meaning, right? Whereas Other poems, maybe a spoken poem, might lend itself more toward tension and release, or a poem with heavier use of a single metaphor might help us, might prefer, like, we do it this way, right? And there are more approaches. I'm not sure, like, all of them, because I'm always finding new ways to look at a poem and understand it and take information from it. But in this case, it just felt like I noticed like lots of different things that probably represent more than the words on the page just by their sort of symbolic existence. The clock tower, many connotations. Cigarettes, connotations. Winter, so much emotion just in naming a season. And then stars, right? Definitely a symbol as well. So then we want to go through and say, what do these things mean and how could they relate to the poem? So cigarettes, we'll talk about these first, right? This is the first symbol we listed. It's the first one that appears in the poem, and it's probably good to go sort of in order as the poem does. But we have cigarettes, and these have multiple connotations as a symbol. Let's move this down. One being, a symbol of vice, addiction. This is definitely one way we see cigarettes. Addiction. Cigarettes can also mean a relief, or like a way to cope. Relief, a cope, something that is relaxing. And these are two very, very different perceptions of just like the cigarette, because one I would say is very negative, one is very positive. And I think actually maybe addiction is probably separate from vice, where it could be a vice, but cigarettes can also be used more broadly in settings where there is vice happening. We look at like Las Vegas with people smoking and the smell of smoke, or like a prostitute smoking, something like that. These are things we see in media, right? And then there's also the idea of the very painful nature of addiction and that kind of thing, right? Cigarettes are, in some cases, as a symbol, seen as cool. Potentially if you're looking at like kids at school and or growing up and smoking as like an adult thing. Now, based on the poem, then we can look at maybe what these, and that's actually a positive connotation, right? So then we can look at if it's maybe one I don't agree with. It doesn't matter. In this setting, which of these might be appropriate? Well, we don't really have this idea of a life of vice. We don't really have this idea of like the cigarette as this adult cool thing. So then maybe we can look at addiction and relief. And admittedly, these two are very connected. But let's look at the context. You slip a pack of cigarettes out the back of your jeans, and the wind howls in coughing sobs at a dying dream. Star-emblemed fur caps and dripping blood crystallized on snow like rhubarb drops, and the man by your legs twitches in the throes of death. It is only once he whimpers, etc. Right? We have a very hostile situation, and a very painful one, and sort of this end. And it makes more sense probably for this person to be pulling out these cigarettes in hope for relief or some amount of safety against the world that is like staring them in the face. There is maybe a point of like addiction, like just being this thing that steps in even in the worst moments, but it doesn't really talk more broadly about that, I would say, in the poem. So I would say pretty confidently, actually, that this is what the cigarette is sort of meaning in this poem. So now we can look at winter as a symbol. Second thing we see, the wind howls, right, in coughing sobs at a dying dream, star-emblemed fur caps dripping on crystallized snow, etc., etc., etc. Winter's warm death, right? And those are the main two. So we have it at the start, we have it at the end. The snow, the howling, the wind. So, but if we look at first winter as whole as a symbol, it has many meanings. Definitely goes here. Winter. So, one sort of, are we all in I am in horizontal mode. Winter. What does this mean? Winter has strong implications of death and hostility, which perhaps is what our mind jumps to in this poem. Sometimes winter can imply, like, holidays, right? And I'm spelling this out because sort of to show the process. Winter can imply there's like a beauty. Some people will often, it's often in poetry, sort of the beauty of winter and the white snow, sort of like also an idea of a reset or like purity, where everything is covered in snow, perfectly white, clean, etc. This is another thing that we think of in winter, right? Now, we're not really talking about holidays or beauty in this poem. Maybe we have some sense of the beauty, like, as a contrast to what's going on, but it's not the main idea. Mostly just death. This idea of a reset or purity maybe makes some sense in this poem. In that, one, it is a contrast, the white snow against like the black, stringy nicotine and horror that we'd spit out, which lets it be a contrast. It's also very uncaring, right? Winter is uncaring. It does not choose its victims. Winter. So these are all options, I would say. These three, not those. But that feels like what this is maybe getting at, right? And then we have the stars. Now we'll do the clock tower. The clock tower is next chronologically. Clock. So just like the passage of time, death, and there's actually a lot with clocks, like religion. Clock towers are often a symbol here with chapel bells and these kinds of things. So there is that. Passage of time, death, religion. What else might we use? Bells. Victory. Here the idea is like bells tolling in terms of victory. I think you see this sometimes in writing. And so these are all things, right? Religion doesn't seem to have too much of an impact on this poem, but we look at the context here. There are clock tower bells echoing your demise on tragedy's horizon. So yes, this passage of time leading into death, right? And then maybe this idea of victory. It feels like a scene of war, right? So perhaps the other side of this soldier, perhaps indicating their victory and sealing the fate of their death, right? Death as well, or not a fate. The end of things, not necessarily just death. Like we have Cinderella, the end of the night, when the bell strikes midnight. So these are all things. And then we have the stars. The earth comes up to meet your body, and you think the stars in the morning look pretty. So, stars. There is beauty, it even says it in the poem. There's also a sense of like aspiration in stars, potentially, right? Shoot for the stars, common thing. Another way that the symbol of stars might be used is mystery, right? The cosmos, the great beyond. The great beyond is death. Whatever's out there, space. Scary. Light and hope in these things. These are stars. So, looking at the way we use the symbols, we go from this beginning of hope, potentially. Not hope, but at least relief. Against great pain, against death, against that sort of looming specter. And then we come to this idea of stars. The earth comes up to meet your body. You think the stars in the morning look pretty. Your eyes bright with fever, shimmering with a sweeping sea of misery. But it never occurs once to you, laying in the embrace of winter's warm death. This is interesting because it sort of takes a spin on winter here, the cold and uncaring, and it turns it into an embrace. There's almost a comfort at the end again, that stars do not appear in the morning. Oh, stars do not appear in the morning. So we have this I find a strange feeling of comfort at the end, which is included by the stars, right? Their beauty, the warm embrace of winter. And it never occurs to you that the stars are not actually there. So of course it's a false hope, is what we're talking about here, or a false comfort, because the stars are not truly present. So we have to look at this symbol of the stars and their beauty and the aspiration and the light as all technically false, right? These are false hopes by the end of the poem. So it creates this very nice symmetrical feeling in the work. You slip a pack of cigarettes out the back of your jeans, something that is hopeful. And then we decline into winter and pain and suffering. Blood, hacking up black nicotine and blood spit, and then this clock tower, this reminder that things are over. It is death. The demise is on the horizon. And then we press our palms, or you press your palms into your eyes until stars burst in rolling darkness. And I think this line is maybe extremely important. This line feels important. Press your palms into your eyes until stars burst in. Right? This is also false. So we know from the beginning that the stars are false. But again, this is intentional. This is an act done by the person onto themselves, which almost makes this sort of lying to oneself, which is probably parallels the beginning of the poem, the pack of cigarettes. it's a false comfort because, we generally know. I think people kind of always knew. Well, for a while people said cigarettes are good for you, but cigarettes bad. A false comfort. Something that gives us comfort in the moment, despite a larger feeling of suffering, or even the onset of suffering. Which makes the stars and the cigarettes very similar here. Even though the stars are normally just a symbol of mostly good things, we've sort of inverted the symbol through having it be false, inflicted by the covering of the eyes. So we say, what is this poem about? Right. When we begin with life, we have life, this broader thing of suffering. We suffer. We have great, painful things happen in our life. In this case, it is probably the most pain this person, you, right, the you of the poem, has ever felt. And it says maybe that at a certain point, pain gets so great, right? We have pain, and it just keeps going up, and we have new ways to suffer. And there's pain. And at some point, there's the poem again, the back rooms. So, as pain increases, we reach a point somewhere where we have to, at some point, sort of pointing at the line here, we'll do white, bring ourselves into a state of denial, is how this feels. We face great suffering, and then, to some degree, we end up having to hide from it. The palms against the eyes also feels like that. Hiding, right? Very fundamental childish thing. Peekaboo, right? Hiding, and then becoming uncovered, and being there again. And in this case, it's much more maybe sinister, or final, the hiding from death, and death being something we can't hide from, the clock tower, the perpetual moving forward of time. I think symbols are really important in prose poetry because oftentimes prose explains, right? It gives us a scene, and this does, it sets out a scene very well for us, right? But that's not what we do in poetry. We want to have broader implication of thought. We want ideas, we want feelings. We don't just want to explain a setting or a scene. So, symbols are great because they become a single word, or a single word idea used a few times, that expanded out more broadly across the work can give us these feelings of direction, of hope or comfort at the beginning, into despair, and then back into, again, that false comfort. And there is a sort of lament at the end, that stars don't appear in the morning. Oh, stars do not appear in the morning. Right? And this oh is really, I feel, like almost a cry of pain, where you realize from the sort of outside perspective, talking to you, that maybe they found this comfort, and then there's this realization that many of our comforts, maybe all of our comforts against death, are false. Which makes it a very sad poem, but also, I would say, a very effective one. So, I like it. I'm actually not sure if I have much more to say. It's interesting. I feel like this sort of path to understanding through the symbols lets you skip over maybe a lot of the specifics in the story and just look at broader ideas, which maybe means we miss something. So I might read it again. You slip a pack of cigarettes out the back of your jeans, and the wind howls in coughing sobs at a dying dream. Star-emblemed fur caps and dripping blood crystallizing on snow like rhubarb drops, and the man by your legs twitches in the throes of death. Okay, admittedly, I might want to talk about grammar in some of these sentences, because they're not quite perfect, and something we can critique is grammar. Oh, we should critique this poem. We haven't done much critique. It is only once he whimpers, once, low, that you look down at him, and your knees buckle at the sight of your face. Which is like such a cool image also, looking down and seeing yourself dying there. Freckled with specks of rosewater, you brace your arms out on either side of your torso, lean over your knees and spit stringy nicotine and horror up onto the earth. There are clock tower bells echoing your demise on a tragedy's horizon, and you press your palms to your eyes until stars burst in rolling darkness. The earth comes up to meet your body. The earth. It's interesting. You think stars in the morning look pretty, your eyes bright with fever, shimmering with a sweeping sea of misery, but it never occurs once to you, laying in the embrace of winter's warm death, that stars do not appear in the morning. Oh, stars do not appear in the morning. So, even though I don't write prose, I think I have a decent handle on grammar, and, you know, I do think probably if we're writing a prose poem, my opinion is it should be grammatical. Poetry lets us step outside the bounds of grammar a lot, but when we're looking at something like this formatted as a paragraph, I think it's really crucial for your reader to have, a pretty solid grammar to go off of. So we start, you slip a pack of cigarettes out the back of your jeans, and the wind howls in coughing sobs at a dying dream. That's a single clause, right? And theoretically, like a period would normally go there. Star-emblemed fur caps and dripping blood. Oops. And dripping blood, crystallizing on snow like rhubarb drops. And the man by your legs twitches in the throes of death. So the first sentence, you slip a pack of cigarettes out the back of your jeans, and the wind howls in coughing sobs at a dying dream. And then we jump to a new clause, star-emblemed fur caps and dripping blood crystallizing on snow like rhubarb drops. Now, this is also not a complete thing, so it makes sense that you would try to connect it here, but it's not done quite right grammatically. And so a few ways to do this, right? You can either make this two sentences. Star-emblemed fur caps and dripping blood crystallizing on snow like rhubarb drops isn't a sentence though, so we would have to change it. And we could do crystallize, right? Crystallize on snow like rhubarb drops. And the man by your leg twitches in the throes of death. This is fine. Because there needs to be an actual verb. Crystallizing isn't quite a verb because it's a gerund. And that would be like saying, the boy running. you need runs or like is running. So you could also say dripping blood is crystallizing on snow, which is probably better, at least because I like crystallizing here, and you have this sense of things happening as opposed to like this would have to be like crystallizes. But is crystallizing or crystallizes. These are going to be ways you can fix this grammar. If you want this all to string together, because I do really like it being this like one long sentence that you have at the beginning of your work. You slip a pack of cigarettes out the back of your jeans, and the wind howls in coughing sobs at a dying dream. Star-emblemed fur caps and dripping blood crystallizing on snow like rhubarb drops, and the man by your legs twitches in the throes of death. So, and this gets a little more tricky because, well, no. You just need to add some sort of conjunction, because you say comma and then have a new clause talking about caps and blood crystallizing. So you could just say like while. You slip a pack of cigarettes out the back of your jeans, and the wind howls in coughing sobs at a dying dream, while star-emblemed fur caps and dripping blood, again, I guess these are both crystallizing, are crystallizing, or crystallize. Okay, you could do crystallize for these two if this is referring to the caps and the blood, or are crystallizing on snow like rhubarb drops, and the man by your legs twitches in the throes of death. This fixes it to be grammatical, and I think we do want that in prose poetry. If you disagree, if you're fine with non-grammatical sentence, by all means keep it, right? But then, so to read it in full again. You slip a pack of cigarettes out the back of your jeans, and the wind howls in coughing sobs at a dying dream, while star-emblemed fur caps and dripping blood are crystallizing on snow like rhubarb drops, and the man by your legs twitches in the throes of death. It's grammatical. Sounds better just by adding like while and fixing this. It is only once he whimpers, once low, that you look down at him and your knees buckle at the sight of your face, freckled with specks of rose water. You brace your arms out on either side of your torso, lean over your knees, and spit stringy nicotine and horror up onto the earth. There are clock tower bells echoing your demise on a tragedy's horizon. You press your palms to your eyes until stars burst in rolling darkness. Earth comes up to meet your body. Think the stars in the morning look pretty, your eyes bright with fever, shimmering with a sweeping sea of misery. But it never occurs, once to you, laying in the embrace of winter's warm death, that stars do not appear in the morning. Oh, stars do not appear in the morning. So, I think grammatically it's fine, except for the start, so we don't really have to worry about that so much. And otherwise, like, let's talk about whether things relate to the theme, because even if it's prose poetry and we're describing a larger scene, I think we want to make sure we're using our words efficiently, and even though it's prose, which I find to be less efficient, like meaning per word, than poetry. And I think it's the middle section that mostly maybe lacks meaning. Mostly the sentence. It is only once he whimpers, it is only once he whimpers once low. Also, this is slightly awkward to read, just once and then once. It's only when he whimpers, once low, like, that would fix it. Although you might like this. Once low that you look down at him and your knees buckle at the sight of your face, freckled with specks of rose water. You brace your arms out on either side. You know, I think I've changed my mind. I like this because we were talking about false comfort and the ways we try to cope with death, even though we are unable to really do so. So we have to lie to ourselves. But the thing that sort of snaps this person into a feeling of pain is looking at a dead person and seeing their own face. This is something that I would say happens in literature fairly often. The idea of looking at your own face, but it's dead. So now you have this mirror. So we have like a mirror, right? And then you're like here, looking at your face in the mirror, right? And then you have like dead, right? This is common, and I like it. It's definitely good. So because this snaps us out of that feeling of false hope, false contentment, false comfort, maybe brought by our initial symbol of the cigarettes. And then we continue with other reminders of death, right? We have the clock tower and tragedy's horizon. And then we find a new way with these stars to find false hope. And this is wonderful. So it gives it this nice parallel structure. So maybe there's no critique there in terms of the actual content in the middle. My only thing is maybe to polish up some grammar, my own personal critique, which I think I've given before to you, is that I like titles on poems. But that's, of course, a personal artistic decision, I think that this not having a title... Okay. Maybe reading your work is having me come around on having untitled poems, because I think this is actually a place where having it no title is fine, because it really drops us into a scene. If we have no title, we're just left at the beginning, like right into the action. You slip a pack of cigarettes out the back of your jeans. We have no other context other than this, and we're just put into the actual scene. And your previous poem to me, menamejeffreyson4point0, was also something that put us right into a scene, something happening. And you really do like paint these pictures so far, at least in the first two poems. So having a title might put thoughts in our head that maybe detract from the initial idea of just the scene. So in that case, I mean, I know you sort of probably did this so I knew it was an untitled prose poem, but if you were to present it, I would say you take off that and you just present it as the text, right? We just don't need to write at the top untitled prose poem, but I think that was for my purposes for you submitting to me, so it's not really a critique, just a point if you ever go to maybe present this in like a publication, right? Even untitled, like, I admittedly don't like when a publication will title something untitled, because I think often the move is to just leave it so that the only thing on the page is the work, right? And that is probably a better way to do things. So I would encourage you to just put your words on the page that you want untitled. Like, I'll work with you on that one. and then that's fine. I think that's all I really have to say about this poem. It was sort of maybe a short analysis, but I'm going to give it a read. I think it works really well. And maybe just polish up the grammar, and you have... I mean, I think stuff like this is really fun to analyze, so it could be a little biased because symbols and these sorts of like unclear ideas, just dropping us into a scene and saying like pull meaning from this, which I have to assume you want me to do, it being a poem, is really a fun exercise. So here's a work by menamejeffreyson4point0. You slip a pack of cigarettes out the back of your jeans, and the wind howls in coughing sobs at a dying dream. Star-emblemed fur caps and dripping blood crystallizing on snow like rhubarb drops, and the man by your legs twitches in the throes of death. It is only once he whimpers, once, low, that you look down at him and your knees buckle at the sight of your face, freckled with specks of rose water. You brace your arms out on either side of your torso, lean over your knees, and spit stringy nicotine and horror onto the earth. There are clock tower bells echoing your demise on a tragedy's horizon, and you press palms to your eyes until stars burst in rolling darkness. The earth comes up to meet your body. You think the stars in the morning look pretty, your eyes bright with fever, shimmering with a sweeping sea of misery. But it never occurs once to you, laying in the embrace of winter's warm death, that stars do not appear in the morning. Oh, stars do not appear in the morning. A poem by menamejeffreyson4point0. Thank you so much for submitting. Thank you for watching. I encourage you to check out the rest of the series, follow if you enjoyed, and stop by Twitch if you want to share your own work. See you there.